a very contextual, dialogue heavy episode, but just with it being Fate Stay Night in general, the animation and the story and the characters, it's just utterly perfect, and I really enjoyed this episode. From someone who's seen Fate Zero, I already knew a lot of this information, but the way they presented it to us was very interesting. It gave people who knew the Fate Zero story things to look at with the character interactions, because we know a couple more things than if you come into this new. But this episode, it was very much needed for people who haven't seen the prequel, know anything about the world, read the light novels. This episode was needed just to give everyone like a base understanding of what the Holy Grail Wars is, why there's masters, why there's servants. Basically this just covers those questions really quickly. And in this episode we basically find out that Shiro and Rin, they sort of like have a ceasefire, because Rin didn't want to like fight Shiro because he knew nothing. He's basically a novice, he's come into this war and he knows absolutely nothing. But when they're like talking back at his house, Saber's like just sat there, and she specifically says she's been in this time period before, she's been summoned before, so we can assume that she's been in one of the battles beforehand, because there's no other way she would have been summoned here that I know of. So I don't understand why she just sat there and not basically explaining all this information. Instead, they end up deciding to go to the church, where we find out that the high priestess or high priest or whatever his like actual title is, he's basically the overseer of the Holy Grail Wars, and he's basically there to fill in these questions for Shiro, because he basically knows absolutely nothing. Because Rin filled in a couple things, but obviously Rin knows about this guy because this guy was somehow like Rin's guardian for other reasons I won't get into, and they basically have a lot of subtextual dialogue in this, and it's very interesting to watch, because as I said before, there's things in there for us old fans who are like hyped about it. And I just love the fact that when he walks in and speaks to Kiri, he's like, "So what's your name, boy?" And he's like, "Amy," and I'm like, just utterly awesome episode. Now, what's interesting is the fact that after all that's concluded, and after like Shiro's decided on what he wants to do, because what's interesting about his character at the beginning of this, he like doesn't have a goal. He doesn't want to be a master. He doesn't want to fight in this war where you've got to kill other masters and servants. But by the end of it, we see him change, because he now has a goal, because he realizes if one of these other masters are like a complete douchebag, if they get the Grail, they could like wish for something unbelievably stupid. Another like great disaster could happen. And we see like flashbacks in this episode where 10 years ago, the last like Grail War, there was like this massive catastrophe, this like event which happened in the town and basically destroyed everything, and Shiro's basically goal is to stop that. He doesn't want that to repeat. So I like that he's actually been given the goal now, but he's like this, he wants to be this hero of justice, and I don't see how he's going to accomplish it, because he's very much just a novice mage. I personally think in a one-to-one battle, Rin would defeat Shiro at the current standing point, because Saber even said she's not at full power. So a little bit awkward, something's going on there, because as we're leaving, like right at the end, after the church, after all that, Rin, Archer, Saber, and Shiro, they're just there talking, and Archer's basically like, he's defenseless, we could attack him now, and she's like, no, I don't want to do that, we're not on even playing field still. She's still coming back to that, and the excuse she says is that because Shiro used one of his command seals to stop Saber from attacking Archer. I'm assuming she believes Saber would win, but earlier in this episode Saber even said she wasn't at full power, so there's clearly some sort of extra thing going on there, as we see with the little blushy blush and all that when Shiro's like, "I like people like you," and it's like, okay, so there's clearly something more going on there that we don't know about, but whether it's feels, whether it's something else, that's entirely something else. I could go into it more from the Fate Zero stuff, but let's leave it at that for now. We'll theorycraft down the line, and then right at the end we see this little white-haired girl once again. Theorycraft about that later on, and this bloody massive berserker dude, and it's like, next episode shit is gonna go cray, and I cannot wait. And it seems like everyone's having the whole bloody waifu wars and all that again about who's better, Rin or Saber. At the moment I prefer Rin. I don't know why, just prefer. I think it was the prologue. After, like, at the end of Fate Zero, I was full Saber, but just in the little prologue, seeing Rin and all that, I think I might be over on Rin's side. So anyway, guys, I've been Harry. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that great stuff. Tell me below on what you thought of the episode. Very nice episode overall. I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10. It's what it is. It's what it is. Needed to be there. I'm glad it's done. I'm glad it's out of the way. I can't wait to see this story progress now, and just to see some more great character interactions, because it's getting good. Bye.